My wife came home glowing from her work retreat with her male colleague Marcus. After 2 weeks of unanswered calls and suspicious silence, I asked her one simple question that made the blood drain from her face. "Do you know what illness he has?" She dropped her phone, ran to get tested, but by then it was already too late. The STD results came back positive. The divorce papers were already filed. The sound of her suitcase wheels on our driveway cut through the November air like a blade. Smooth, inevitable, final. I watched from the kitchen window, coffee growing cold in my hands, as Rachel stepped out of the Uber with the kind of glow people get from expensive vacations and expensive lies. 14 days. 2 full weeks she'd been gone on what she called a critical work retreat to some resort in the Bahamas. A retreat so critical that spouses weren't invited. So critical that her phone had been conveniently unreachable for hours at a time. So critical that when I'd called her company's main line to leave a message, the receptionist had paused just a fraction too long before saying she'd pass it along. That pause told me everything. But I said nothing. Not when she left, not during her absence, and not now as she walked up our front steps with that particular lightness in her step that guilt tries to disguise as happiness. The door opened. "James! God! I missed you!" Rachel looked radiant. Her skin had that sun-kissed bronze that doesn't come from sitting in conference rooms. Her eyes were bright, rested, alive in a way they hadn't been in months, maybe years. She wore a new linen dress, white and breezy, the kind of thing you buy on vacation when you're trying to become a different version of yourself. She dropped her bags and moved toward me for an embrace. I hugged her back, felt her arms around me, smelled unfamiliar perfume mixing with sunscreen and something else, something that made my stomach turn. "How was it?" I asked, keeping my voice level, almost disinterested. "Exhausting," she said, pulling back with a performative sigh. "Back-to-back sessions, networking dinners every night. I barely had time to breathe, but productive, really productive." I nodded slowly, took a sip of cold coffee, watched her watching me. She was good. I'd give her that. 12 years of marriage had taught her how to read my moods, how to calibrate her lies to match my temperature. But she didn't know what I knew. Couldn't know that I'd spent the last 14 days becoming a different person myself. The kind who checks phone records, who calls in favors, who sits in parking lots outside office buildings waiting for the truth to show its face. "That's great, Rach. Really great." I set down my mug. "You must be tired. Why don't you shower, unpack? I'll make us lunch." Relief flickered across her face. "You're the best. I'm disgusting from the flight." She grabbed her suitcase and headed upstairs. I listened to the familiar sounds. Bedroom door opening, suitcase being heaved onto the bed, bathroom door closing, shower starting. All of it so normal, so mundane, like the last 2 weeks had been exactly what she said they were. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo again. The one Marcus had sent me. Marcus, her colleague, her work husband. The man she'd been texting at midnight for the past 6 months with messages that started as jokes and evolved into something else entirely. Marcus with his easy smile and his CrossFit body and his habit of putting his hand on the small of my wife's back during office parties. In the photo, they were at a beachside restaurant. Rachel was laughing at something he'd said, her hand on his forearm, her wedding ring catching the sunset light like a small, bitter joke. They looked happy. They looked like a couple. They looked like people who'd forgotten that other people existed. Marcus had sent it to me by accident. A group text meant for his college buddies that included my number because we'd once been friends too, back before I understood what he was. The message that followed, "Wrong chat, man. Sorry," came 3 minutes later. Long enough for me to screenshot everything. Long enough for the truth to burn itself into my retinas. I deleted the photo and put my phone away. Upstairs, the shower stopped. I heard Rachel humming, actually humming, as she dried off, as she wrapped herself in the towel I'd washed and folded last Tuesday while she was taking sunset walks with someone else. 40 minutes later, she came downstairs in yoga pants and one of my old college sweatshirts, her wet hair twisted into a bun. She looked younger, softer, like the woman I'd married. For a moment, just a moment, I felt the muscle memory of love. The old instinct to protect her, to believe in her, to make excuses for things that didn't add up. Then she smiled at me, and I remembered. Grilled cheese, I asked, already pulling out the bread. Perfect. She sat at the kitchen island, pulled out her phone, started scrolling. Oh my God. I have so many emails. They really worked us to the bone. I buttered the bread, laid cheese on sourdough, tried to keep my hands steady. Did Marcus survive? I said his name casually, like it was nothing, like I didn't know what I knew. I know he was worried about the presentation. Rachel glanced up. For just a fraction of a second, something flickered in her eyes. Fear, guilt, recognition that we were about to cross into territory we couldn't come back from. Marcus. Her voice was almost perfect. Almost. Yeah, he did great. You know him, always prepared. I do know him, I agreed, flipping the sandwich. That's why I was surprised when I found out. Found out what? She was still scrolling, but her thumb had stopped moving. This was the moment, the cliff edge, the point where our marriage would either bend or break. I plated her sandwich, cut it diagonally the way she liked, set it in front of her with a napkin and a pickle spear. Then I leaned against the counter, crossed my arms, and asked the question I'd been rehearsing for 6 days. Do you know what illness he has? The color drained from her face like water from a tub. The phone slipped from her hand, clattered onto the granite countertop. What? Her voice came out thin, strangled. Marcus, I said calmly. The illness he has. I'm assuming he told you about it during your 2 weeks together? Or were you too busy with back-to-back sessions and networking dinners? Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. What are you? It's pretty serious, I continued, picking up my coffee mug, examining it like we were discussing the weather. Contagious, too, especially through intimate contact. Her hands started trembling. She gripped the edge of the counter. James, I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? I set the mug down with a soft click. Because I'm pretty sure you do. I'm pretty sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm pretty sure you're currently calculating whether you were careful enough. Whether protection was involved every single time. Whether the risk was worth it. Stop. Her voice broke. Just stop. You're making things up. Am I? I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots I'd saved. The photo of them at dinner. The text messages. Can't wait to see you again. This feels so right. 2 weeks of paradise. I slid the phone across the counter. She stared at the screen. Her face went from pale to ashen. That's not what it looks like. Rachel. I said her name quietly, firmly. Don't insult both of us. You've been sleeping with him. For how long, I don't know. Months, probably. And during this work retreat, you spent 14 days doing what exactly? Definitely not sitting in conference rooms. Tears started forming in her eyes. The defensive walls were crumbling. James, please. I talked to Marcus's ex-wife, I said. Did you know he had an ex-wife? They divorced 8 months ago. You know why? She didn't answer, just stood there shaking. Because he cheated on her. Multiple times. With multiple women. And during their divorce proceedings, she had to get tested for STDs because he'd exposed her to chlamydia. Twice. Rachel's hand flew to her mouth. No. So when I ask if you know what illness he has, I'm asking if he bothered to tell you about his history. if he bothered to mention that he's careless, that he lies, that he destroys marriages for fun and then moves on to the next willing participant. Oh my God! She stumbled backward, grabbing the counter for support. Oh my God! Oh my God! You should probably get tested, I said. My voice was still calm, cold, detached. Like soon. Today if possible. I've already scheduled an appointment for myself. Tomorrow at 9. Figured I should be thorough since I've been sleeping with someone who's been sleeping with someone who has a documented history of STDs. James, please. We can fix this. Fix this. I laughed. Actually laughed. Rachel, there's nothing to fix. You made your choice. You made it 6 months ago when you started texting him. You made it 2 weeks ago when you flew to the Bahamas with him. You made it every single day you looked me in the eye and lied. I'm sorry. She was fully crying now. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. You weren't thinking. That's the problem. You were feeling. And what you felt was exciting and new and worth more than 12 years of marriage, apparently. I pushed off the counter, grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair. Where are you going? Panic edged her voice. Out. You should call your doctor. Make that appointment. And while you're at it, you might want to call a lawyer too. A lawyer? James, no, we can work through this. There's nothing to work through, Rachel. I filed for divorce yesterday. You'll be served the papers tomorrow. Her face crumpled completely. You can't. You can't just give up on us. I didn't give up on us. You did. The moment you decided Marcus was more important than everything we built together. I walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard her collapse into the bar stool, heard the sobs that were probably meant to make me turn around, to make me soften, to make me believe we could salvage something from the wreckage. But I kept walking, out the door, into my car, down the driveway. I didn't look back. 3 days later, I got the text. Rachel, test came back positive. Chlamydia. Getting treated. I'm so sorry. I stared at the message for a long moment. Felt nothing. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just a hollow confirmation of what I'd already known. My test was negative. Thank God we stopped sleeping together 2 months ago when I started suspecting something was wrong. That was a lie. We'd stopped sleeping together because she'd pulled away. Because she was already getting what she needed somewhere else. But let her think I'd been smart enough to protect myself. Let her sit with that. Rachel, can we please talk? Face to face? Me? Talk to your lawyer. Mine will be in touch about asset division. I blocked her number after that. Changed the locks on the house, it was mine anyway. Bought before we got married. Moved her belongings into the garage. Neatly packed in boxes, labeled and organized because even in dissolution, I wasn't going to be the messy one. The divorce took 6 months. She tried to drag it out, tried to claim she deserved more because she'd supported my career by hosting dinners and networking on my behalf. My lawyer shut that down quickly with evidence of her affair. Turns out infidelity matters in divorce proceedings, especially when it involves reckless behavior that exposes your spouse to health risks. She got her car, her retirement account, and whatever personal items she wanted from the house. I got everything else. The house, the investments, my peace of mind. Marcus, I heard through mutual friends, dumped her 3 months after she got back. Turns out the excitement of an affair is different from the reality of being with someone whose life you helped destroy. He moved on to someone else at the company. Another married woman. Another willing victim. Rachel moved into a small apartment downtown. Got treatment, got therapy, got a new job after the office gossip made her old position untenable. I heard she was dating again. Someone from her gym, appropriately single this time. I didn't care. Didn't follow her social media. Didn't ask mutual friends for updates. Didn't drive by her new place to see how she was doing. The woman I'd married died the day she got on that plane to the Bahamas. The woman who came back was a stranger wearing a familiar face. A year after the divorce finalized, I sold the house. Too many ghosts, too many memories embedded in the walls. Bought a loft downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. Started dating, casually at first, then more seriously when I met Sarah, a hospital administrator who'd been through her own divorce, who understood that trust was something you rebuilt slowly, carefully, brick by brick. We took things at a pace that would have driven younger me crazy. No rushing, no assumptions, no skipping steps. Every milestone earned, every boundary respected. On our 6-month anniversary, over dinner at the restaurant where we'd had our first date, Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I know you've been through hell," she said, "and I know trust doesn't come easy anymore. But I want you to know, I see you. I see the work you've done to heal. And I'm not going anywhere." I squeezed back, felt something in my chest loosen. Something that had been locked tight since that November afternoon when I watched my wife come home from betraying me. "Thank you," I said, and meant it. The story could have ended differently. I could have been one of those people who ignores the signs, who convinces himself that suspicion is paranoia, who chooses comfortable lies over uncomfortable truth. But the thing about betrayal is that it leaves evidence. In phone records and accidental texts, in changes in behavior and unexplained absences, in the way someone looks at you when they're calculating whether you're stupid enough to believe them. Rachel thought 12 years of trust meant 12 years of blind faith. Thought the version of me who'd loved her unconditionally would keep loving her no matter what she did. She was wrong. The question I asked her that day, "Do you know what illness he has?" wasn't really about Marcus's health history. It was about showing her that I knew, that the game was over, that the lies had run their course. She ran to her doctor thinking she was protecting herself from a physical disease. She didn't realize the real sickness was what she'd done to us. And that illness? There was no treatment for it. No pill to take, no course of antibiotics to clear it up. Just consequences. Real, permanent, life-altering consequences. I learned something important through all of it. That self-respect isn't optional. That you can love someone deeply and still walk away when they prove they don't deserve you. That sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is refuse to accept crumbs from someone who used to give you the whole meal. Rachel made her choices. I made mine. She chose excitement over stability, novelty over history, passion over partnership. I chose self-preservation, dignity, truth. And in the end, I didn't just survive her betrayal. I built something better from its ashes. The loft where I live now has no room for ghosts. The woman I share my life with now has no interest in lies. The man I've become doesn't accept anything less than what he deserves. Rachel gave me an unexpected gift when she got on that plane to the Bahamas. She showed me exactly who she was when she thought I wasn't looking. And I showed her exactly who I was when the looking was finally done.